Well, the third quarter of our real estate market is here, and the report has come out. And I love it when these reports come out, because even though I eat, drink, and sleep real estate year round, and I'm really in the thick of things of helping people buy and sell every day, when these reports come out and I see the statistics, it helps me, even though I'm living it, I understand what's going on a little bit better. So I'm going to give you an explanation so that you can understand it as well. And I think you'll find this very interesting. This chart is showing us our supply and demand ratio for Calgary. And the blue bars are showing us our months of supply. So it's pretty simple mathematics. We know that when there's low supply and high demand, real estate prices tend to go up. And that's what's happening. We have right now just over 2 months supply of real estate. And that's not a lot. And that tells us that with the demand and the low supply, we're definitely seeing price increases. And you can see the benchmark price has responded here in orange. And I'm going to show you some stats, more stats in a minute that'll explain just how far we've gone in terms of high prices. So we haven't seen this low inventory level this low all the way back to 2014, which happened to be the peak of the market back then. Now I like looking at all the factors that influence real estate. One of them is obvious, low interest rates. And it is unprecedented. Right now we have 50-year lows. There is no question that interest rates are playing a major role in this demand for real estate. But usually, in the past, because I've been doing this since 1999, so I've seen some changing markets over the years. Usually interest rates is not the sole reason that people start entering the market. Usually there's other factors that do. And one of them would be, lots of jobs. And here we're showing our unemployment rate, and you can see it's bounced around. I've never seen unemployment, go that high and then go low and then go back up. It's kind of a crazy market. But this in green is showing our unemployment rate had hit almost 16% during shutdown, and we're still sitting at just over 8%. Now that's to me is significant because in the previous major uptick market that we had, which was both 2005 and 6 and 2013, 2014, we had we had unemployment rates that were sitting, hovering around between 3 and 4%. So this is really unprecedented to have such high unemployment rates and still such a high demand of real estate. So this chart I also find interesting. This is our population change for Alberta going back to 2007. And you can see, looking at the blue, which is net interprovincial migration, meaning people that are either leaving or coming to Alberta. And of course we have black, which is a net international migration. So they track where people are coming from. The bottom line is that, if we're below zero here, we have more people leaving the province than coming to the province. So you can see that in the good times, we had a lot of people coming to Alberta, and then we went through some challenging times here back in 2008 and 9 where more people were leaving. Things rebounded, a lot of people came, jobs were plentiful. Then we had another market downturn as we peaked in 2014, 2015, people started leaving again. And you can see, look where we are right now. We still have more people leaving than coming. So high unemployment, more people leaving, and yet our market is on fire for real estate. And it seems to be all interest rates. It's a little bit unusual. So these are the metrics that I usually look for to try to make a predictor of real estate. And these are the metrics that have worked in the past, but they're not the metrics that seem to be giving an indication of what's happening right now. So it's good to make a note of it. What it means is I don't have all of the answers, and nobody does, as to why we're seeing such a demand. I have a few theories. Obviously, interest rates is one. The fact that COVID has really opened people's eyes to wanting to own property, more time being spent at home, maybe a fear of the unknown. A lot of things happening. There was actually a lot of babies being born. A lot of our younger generation is buying homes that are already living in Calgary. So there are a few other factors that are coming into play here. But these, of course, that I just showed you are the main ones we normally look for. Now I'm going to show you the stats. So here's the detached section of the market, detached homes only. And it's quite remarkable what's happened when you see here all blue. So the dark blue, of course, is 10% or more increase in price. And of course, the lighter blue would be 6 to 10%. Our year over year for detached homes for our median sales, we're up 10.52%. And I can tell you there's some areas in Calgary that are up as much as 17, 18%. It's quite phenomenal. I just never would have guessed that we would have seen those kind of increases in 2021. If you come down here to the bottom, this I also find interesting. In the third quarter of 2005, where we had an uptick, and I remember this year very well. It was like the tap got turned on and all of a sudden houses were just, flying off the shelf, so to speak. There was 4,268 properties, which was the highest record of sales in a quarter, and look where we are at 3,976. So, we're not too far off the record that was set. And then if you go over here to record high levels of inventory, which were 2008, 5,262, and of course we're at 2,792. So bottom line, as I said, this is a high demand, lower supply. And if this continues, we are going to continue to see price increases. And no one knows what 2022 is going to bring, but there's every indication that coming into 2022, we're going to remain strong, at least for the time being. Which means if you have a detached house and you want to sell, this is actually a good time to sell, which in a normal year, you might want to hold off until the new year. I would suggest maybe really considering selling in 2021 and strike while the market's hot. So here we're looking at the semi-detached market. These are generally attached properties that don't have condo fees. And for Calgary, I know the stats really are clear on this. People prefer a detached house as their first choice. Semi-detached tends to be the second choice. But it doesn't have condo fees, and that seems to be an attractive thing for people. And I think today people are a lot more comfortable with semi-detached than they were even, 10 years ago. So you can see pretty good demand down south, pretty good demand up north. The inner city still has had a very, very reasonable increase in prices. What I find interesting is if you look down at this chart down below, in 2014, which was the other peak of the market, we had 596 sales in that third quarter. And if you remember the markets from 2010 to 2014, we saw a tremendous demand of people who were tearing down old houses in the inner city and building semi-detached homes, or just infills as they otherwise call them. And I know I own a property in Altadore, and I was just amazed, like the whole area was under construction. And we peaked here in 2014, and then of course things started to slide, and the infill market really slowed down dramatically. Well, this is the first year that we've seen price increases in this sector, and it's been healthy. So this is a really good sign, and the infill market is definitely doing a lot better today. However, there was a lot of people that bought in 2013, 2014 that their values have dropped considerably. I think if you're one of those people and you want to know what your value is now, you might be pleasantly surprised, and you should give me a call. Now, here's our are row houses, otherwise known as townhomes. And townhomes would be the third choice of properties that people would want in Calgary for most people. Remember, I'm generalizing here. I'm not saying this is for every person would pick this as their third choice, but I'm just saying generally speaking. And it's all good news again. To my surprise, I never would have guessed that the Northeast would have seen the greatest degree of price increases, and then the rest of the city, except for the West, has had modest increases, 6 to 10%. 8.58% year over year on average. So this is great news. And again, for people who maybe bought at the peak of the market who would like to move up to something else and get the money back they have out of it, this is a good time to reach out to me and find out exactly what your property is worth, because it might be good news for you. Down at the bottom, this is amazing. Record high in the history of Calgary. We saw 1,012 sales this year. So that's just great news. And over here you can see our inventory at 971. We peaked for inventory in 2018. So just a really good, strong market for row houses. So all of the boats are being lifted in the harbor. It's good news. Now, apartment condos. It's kind of the never-ending story. I mean, it is good news. It's just not great news. And you can see that there's still red in the middle. And that's the part that's not great news, because there's a lot of people that bought condos at the peak of the market in 2014 in the city center quadrant of the city. And those people are sitting with values that are much less than they paid. And I feel for any of you that are in that situation. We have seen a 2.5% price increase year over year on average. It's good to see that we're seeing some blue and we're seeing some light blue. Believe me, it wasn't very long ago that this was all red. So it's positive. As I mentioned, all the boats in the harbor are being lifted and condos are being lifted as well. I do get regular calls from people who want to know if this is the right time to sell their condo, and they're curious to know, can I get back the money I have into it if they bought it at the wrong time? And I can tell you, most of them, you still are not at the price that you paid. And so some people are choosing to hang on and hoping that this market starts to rebound as we still keep seeing these price increases. Our battle with condos, though, is that we're still building more. So we have a supply issue. At least as far as, record sales, well, we had in 2014, there was, 1,323. And, this past quarter, we're at, 1,044. So we didn't come close to the record of 2014, but it's certainly looking positive. And if you look at the inventory levels, the record of inventory levels was 2017 at 1,802. We're sitting at 1,805. So our inventory levels are still high, but at least we're seeing some good demand. So it's good news for the apartments. It would be really nice, if prices would go up 10% over the next, year in the apartment condo sector. I just don't know if we're going to see that. So it's a tough decision for anyone who's trying to sell and recoup some of the money they've had into it. However, if you're a buyer, there's definitely opportunity. And let me just wrap up by saying this. I've talked a lot about sellers. I've talked a lot about pricing. So a lot of times buyers are asking me, really, is this the time that I should be getting in? With the market being hot, should I wait for things to cool off? I would suggest no. Primarily interest rates. Interest rates are only going to go one direction, and they're not going to go down. So you may as well take advantage of interest rates. If you do the math, even if prices of real estate, drop even a little bit. Let's say worst case scenario, you bought a property and it dropped in value, but your interest rate is so low and interest rates go up, you would still be coming out further ahead by having the lower mortgage payment and the lower rate. So this is an unprecedented time to take advantage of this. it's like I said, you never can predict these markets. None of us know what 2022 will bring, but right at this very moment, there's opportunities for both buyers and sellers. Let the interest rates work for you. And as always, I'll invite any of you to reach out to me if you just want to get more clarification on the market, more clarification on the current value of your home. And one of the things that has worked extremely well in the past couple of years is working with our contractor and improving some of these homes. We walk into them, just some minor improvements can make such a massive difference. I talk about it in a chapter in my book because I've seen it work over and over again. So please, if you've got a home that also needs some work, also reach out to me and I'll give you some advice as to where we should spend the money, where not to spend the money. There's a fine line there. I know where it is because I've done it so often and I can help you with that. All the best, and I will see you next month.